2017 in the amount of $90,192.58.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the annual checks dated August 4th, 2017 in the amount of $90,192.58 indicate by saying aye. Aye. And that brings us to payroll.
I'll move we approve payroll dated July 27th in the amount of $248,977.74.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving payroll of 27 July 2017 in the amount of $248,977.74 indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And that's taken care of. And we have public comment. First up, Ms. Lutz.
My golden years have rusted. Attached, you'll find a couple of things besides my statement and a copy of the Berkeley County ordinance. I'm sure most of you have already read that a couple of times. One of the papers is one that I created showing a list of all the volunteer fire departments in the state. And of those, you won't find that anywhere else except I created that from a roster from the fire marshal's office. I'm Nancy Lutz. I'm here to speak on behalf of my animals and the animals that live around me and anybody else who happens to make a living in an agricultural venture. I'm here to thank the County Commission for taking time to include this issue of the ordinance regarding detonation of fireworks to their busy schedule. In a previous public comment, I explained my frustration with the weeks of nuisance noise preceding the 4th of July weekend and the negative impact on my valued herd of alpacas as well as my horses and the horses of neighbors' thoroughbred breeding operation. The animals are stressed by the noise, and in some cases, negative environmental impact can result in injury or a mere slipping of foal or the loss of a cria or premature birth. Animal husbandry is an occupation which contributes far more benefit to the county than a fireworks display. I've heard the discussion regarding the money that the volunteer fire departments receive from the sale of fireworks. Last 6 months of the year 2016, volunteer fire departments got less than $500 each from the contribution of the tax schedule from the what they call the fireworks safety fee. If you look on the page where I've printed out, you'll see that of the entire amount, 418 fire departments divided $186,752 between them. There are 20 paid fire departments in the state, and there are 12 that are half volunteer and supplemented with paid, and the remainder of that 426 is total volunteer. And I think I've indicated that on the page I have given you. I'd pay an additional $5 per household to go to fire department funding if it was necessary and if it would curb the amateur pyrotechnics and ensure the safety and quiet of my neighborhood. We've been lucky not to have had it been a drought this year, but what if? I'm not requesting a full ban on fireworks, just some common sense to be legislated by this group. I would like for you to consider the restriction of amateur displays to only the 3rd and 4th of July and 31 December. The hours can be from 2100 hours to 2400 hours for the July dates and 0300 for January 1st. I'd like for you to consider a permitting process for those that have neighborhood displays that would identify the areas where complaints could arise, as well as requiring liability insurance coverage in the event of damage from a stray projectile or animals injured during the event. I've heard that it would be frivolous to pass an ordinance that can't be enforced. You've got speeding laws and you've got DUI laws. You don't get everybody, but you get your share and you make an example of those that you do. This would be no different. Procedures for handling the incidents of violation would have to be planned ahead of time, as well as educating the public. I request your consideration to this ordinance for the safety and well-being of the county.
Thank you very much. Next, Ms. Jada Bennett.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Jada Bennett. I just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce myself to you guys today. I am the new 4-H Youth Development Extension Agent here in Jefferson County. So I just wanted to come out this morning and say hello, since your county commission is gracious enough to, support us in our efforts to help agriculture and help our youth through, also families, through our practices in the Extension Office. I am a native of Berkeley County, so not too far here, and I'm very excited to start working with our youth and partnering with the community and a lot of different businesses that can help our youth grow into successful adults. I hope to be able to work closely with all of you as well, as I know that, when you go out into the communities, you see some of the needs that arise, as well as working with the Board of Ed and other youth groups to try to encourage efforts to just continue and support our youth in the county. Some of the different projects that I'm hoping to put forth is one, working towards more STEAM activities in the county, which would be science-related technology, engineering, art, and math. Some of that can be robotics. Some of that is just different activities that allow kids to have a hands-on opportunity to learn. If you have any questions, of course I know you won't be asking now, but if you have any questions, please feel free to get a hold of me at the Extension Office at any time, and we can sit down and talk and have a conversation about what you see as a county and what I can help you guys with. So, thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Commissioner Compton?
Okay, so I was asked by county resident Glenn Mays just to read his public comment since he couldn't be here. So to the Jefferson County Commissioners, I would like to address the current talk of a possible fireworks ordinance. I have not heard any fireworks for weeks now. Please do not overreact on an issue that comes up basically once a year around the 4th of July. I too have dogs that hide when fireworks go off, but they also do the same thing during deer firearms season and thunderstorms. Do you plan on restricting them too? We deal with it and move on because it's part of life. Fireworks have been going on in Jefferson County long before the state made them legal, with apparently little, if any, enforcement. So why create a feel-good ordinance that will change nothing? I really couldn't tell the difference in amount of fireworks set off from before the state law was passed to after it. As a Marine veteran, I enjoy watching people celebrate our country's freedom around the 4th of July. Let's use common sense today and table this issue until it truly becomes a problem. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that wishes to make a public comment? I had neglected to ask for announcements, changes in the agenda, whatever.
I don't have any changes in the agenda, but I did want to make an announcement today. Carol's last day as our fee collector, and I wanted to recognize her. Obviously, I work with Carol on a daily basis, and she's been a and we are going to miss her. She implemented this program single-handedly, basically, and has done a job. I think we see collection rates that you just won't see anywhere else because of Carol's efforts. Having said that, sitting beside her, and Carol's sitting in the back, they're sitting in the back so you can't see them, is her replacement, Dawn Weimer, who she's been here for 2 short months, but she also shows herself to be very abled, and she will follow in Carol's footsteps. So I didn't know if you wanted to say anything to Carol, but I just wanted to thank her for her service to the county, and we
Why don't both of you come on up here? This
Not what you want.
auspicious occasion calls for a song. Actually, I take no credit for the tune. I'll take credit for some of the words. From Jefferson County you are leaving. Do not hasten to bid us adieu, but remember the county commission and those who appreciate you. Remember us from down in Florida in the winters when the winds and the snow, and we'll think of you in the Sunshine State when those summer hurricanes start to blow. Well, we wish you a safe and pleasant journey. May success crown, may happy, darn. We wish you a safe and prosperous journey, the word fits. And to your family, may it be crowned with success. But most of all, for you and your family, may the Lord grant you continued happiness.
I want to say to Carol, I've been around since Carol was first hired, and how impressed I have been. I mean, she did single-handedly get this fire fee going, and, she worked tirelessly to do that, and she created a system that I would compare to anywhere else. And your friendly face as people walked in the door. I love your smile, and I love the sign there that says, please smile when you come in to pay your bill. But a lot of people don't adhere to that sign, but you have handled that challenge beautifully and extremely well. And we are going to miss you a ton. And so Dawn has big shoes to fill. And so, we're going to expect a lot from her. But you created that standard, and I wish you the best of happiness and good health in Florida. Going to miss you.
I was going to sing a song, but my vocals are just not as good as Peter's. So on that note, in my short tenure here, I mean, you've been phenomenal. I'm sad to see you go, but it's Florida. Let's be serious here. But I wish you the best, and thanks for all you've done.
Carol, I too appreciate your service to this county, and I know when the ambulance fee was first implemented, I had a lot of angry customers. And I appreciate your patience and poise under fire, and for your remarkable work product. It's been wonderful for the county. You've done a superb job, and I know you've trained Dawn well, and we'll expect good things of Dawn too. So, and there's support here in the county for your position. You need something, you tell us. Okay? We may not always be able to deliver it, but we'll listen, and we won't know if you need it unless you tell us. So.
An unasked question will never go answered.
Carol, thank you for being so helpful. Wish you nothing but the best.
Oh, and enjoy those grandchildren.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's going to be wonderful for
That's
you
gonna be
and your
icing on-
family.
I'm babysitting next weekend. So. Baby, come and have it. That's true. Thank you guys, I appreciate it. I've
Thank you, Carol.
very
thoroughly
much.
enjoyed it. It's been a
Good.
great challenge.
Yeah,
I love a challenge, so it's been great.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have an assessor's representative?
Yes, Angie is here.
Oh, didn't see behind the chair.
I wish I was taller.
Join the crowd, Angie. My kids were very happy to inform me I'm the shortest one in the family.
Yes, my grandchildren are starting.
Yes, yeah. Well, I'll have that soon too. Yeah.
Love it when they're at eye level with you and beyond.
Okay. The first one I'm going to do is a split ticket. Let's see, this is in Harpers Ferry District, ticket number 308729. The applicant is Lisa Stobbs. Her part of the ticket will be the 2007 Dodge Nitro assessed at $3,200. Tax amount $75.18. The other applicant is Timmy Stobbs, and he is given the 02 Dodge Dakota 1900 and the 03 utility trailer at $200, and the total is $49.34 for his portion of the bill.
I move we approve the split ticket number 308729 as presented by the assessor.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the split ticket number 308729 as presented by the assessor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Next.
Okay, this is a real estate bill. It's in the 2017 real estate book, Harpers Ferry Corp. The applicant is Elaine Edel, and her divisional should have been taken off. So the assessed value is $19,640, and the tax amount to be exonerated is $258.78. Ticket number 15477.
I move approval of the exoneration for ticket number 15477, explained by our assessor.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the exoneration for ticket number 15477 as presented by the assessor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next.
Okay, the rest of these are personal property. Okay, this first one, the applicant is Edward Brosh, ticket number 300847. And they did not own the 03 Dodge Legacy, which was assessed at $1,200, or the 05 Dodge Neon, assessed at $1,000. Tax amount for the full year is $51.68. Ticket number 300847.
I assume this is an exoneration, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I move we approve the exoneration ticket number 300847 as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the exoneration of ticket number 300847 as presented by the assessor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Next.
Yeah, all these are exonerations, and most of the applicants had new bills created because they actually owned a different vehicle. The next one is in the 2017 personal property book, Charlestown District. The taxpayer incorrectly listed a 03 Chevy S10, assessed value $2,800, tax amount $65.78 for the full year. Ticket number 301236, and the applicant is Deborah Connor.
I move the approval of the exoneration for number 301236 as described by the assessor.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the exoneration for ticket number 301236 as presented by the assessor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Next.
Okay, this is in our 2017 personal property book, Middle Way District. The camper was priced too high. The assessed value difference is $17,800, and tax amount is $418.16. The applicant is Thomas Gaither, ticket number 311894.
All right, I move we approve the exoneration of ticket number 311894 as presented by the assessor.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the exoneration for ticket number 311894 as presented by the assessor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Next.
Okay, this is in our 2017 personal property book, Shepherdstown District. Taxpayer reported the wrong vehicle. They reported a 2000 Toyota Corolla. Assessed value is $3,500. Amount to be exonerated is $82.22. And the applicant is John Hines, Jr., ticket number 315739.
I'll move that one. Move the exoneration of ticket number 315739 as presented by the assessor.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the exoneration for ticket number 315739 as presented by the assessor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Next.
This one is in our 2017 Personal Property Book Middle Way District. The '05 GMC Sierra should not have been reported. Assessed value $10,400, tax amount $244.32. The applicant is Patricia Knighton, ticket number 312288.
I'll move approval of the exoneration for ticket number 312288 as described by the assessor.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the exoneration for ticket number 312288 as presented by the assessor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next.
This one's in our 2017 Personal Property Book Harpers Ferry District. Taxpayer erroneously reported a '91 Mercedes. Assessed value $500, tax amount $11.75. Applicant is Dwayne Thompson, ticket number 308794.
I'll move approval of exoneration ticket number 308794 as presented by the assessor.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the exoneration of ticket number 308794 as presented by the assessor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Next.
That is all of them. And I wanted to say, since July 1st, we've had over 600 online filers, and we are now caught up with all of our mail. I'm excited about that because we get a whole lot all at once,
Right,
like
right.
boxes. So anyway, have a good day.
And you do also. And next, we're up with Ms. Storm.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for your time this morning. I come before you to ask for the approval of a new hire. I lost an employee over to APU. I can't compete with free
Right.
education. So, but I'm requesting you to approve Vicki Hires as a full-time deputy clerk, effective Monday, August the 7th. Her starting salary will be $31,500 with full benefits afforded to Jefferson County Commission employees, and upon successful completion of her 90-day probationary period, I will raise her to $32,000. This position is an approved position. Money's within my budget. She comes to me with extensive experience, which I believe qualifies her for this salary, and I'm very lucky actually to get her. She wants to stay local. So I did interview her about a year ago for another position, and I saved her resume, and lucky for me, she wants to stay local. So I can bring her in now.
I'll move the approval for the hiring of Vicki Hires, is that how you say it? As a full-time deputy clerk in the circuit clerk's office with benefits according to all county commissioner employees. Starting salary $31,500, and after successful completion of the probationary period, salary would be $32,000. Effective starting date August 7th, 2017.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Just for the record, Jessica, when you do the minutes, make sure you get the right spelling. The I and the E are transfixed in each paragraph, so.
Oh, I did do that. I apologize. It is
I just want to make sure that
H-I-E-R-S, correct.
whichever one she picks, it's the right one.
Correct.
Yeah, 50% chance of being the wrong one. So anyway, all in favor of approving the hiring of Vicki Hires as full-time deputy clerk in the circuit clerk's office with all benefits afforded to county commission employees at the starting salary of $31,500, and upon successful completion of the 90-day probationary period, she will be raised up to $32,000 with an effective starting date of August 7th, 2017. Indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You got her?
Thank you. I
You're welcome.
appreciate it. Y'all have a great day. Thanks.
Okay. Is John out there? our to-do list. I think we could do the new business. Number 14.
I spoke with Carol this morning. They had put this on the agenda. The convenience fee charge people to use the credit card, and we can't make money off it by statute. It's just actually to cover the cost of what we get charged from the credit card company. So we have been charging $2. We picked that fee initially. I was here when we picked that fee. We thought it would cover it, and it hasn't been. So they wanted to raise it to $2.50, but then Carol came to me this morning to say that on the bills we sent out, it says that the convenience fee is $2. So when people go to pay on the online system, their bill will say $2, and if we raise it, it will be $2.50, so it's a little different, and we obviously don't want to send out another round of bills just for the. It's up to you if we, I mean, just so you know, we're going in, not covering all of our costs. And I don't know if you want to change it mid-year or wait until the next cycle, send out bills to change it. Just because the bills already say $2.
I say we wait till the next cycle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
just
agree.
to keep
That's an unpleasant surprise, and
And I think, I mean, people like to pay with their credit card, it's convenient, but I don't want to give.
Yeah, no, and then, that there's enough dissatisfaction with the fee to begin with, without creating even
Right.
more. And people will be dissatisfied with sense just to be dissatisfied. So,
You could make it, so you could vote today to make it effective July 1st, 2018, if you wanted to go ahead and vote on it.
All right, I'll move it, move approval to increase the convenience charge for the ambulance fee credit card payments to $2.50 to cover credit card charges effective July 1st, 2018.
second.
is there any discussion?
Can we get some like documentation to justify the $2.50? Is there a certain percentage, or is it just a flat rate per transaction,
It's
or?
a flat rate per transaction. Every credit card charges something different.
Yeah, I'm aware.
So when Carol looks at her bank statements, the convenience fee goes into a separate account, and she hasn't been covering what the credit card companies are charging. But I can get you the documentation if you would like to see that before voting.
Because how much are we in the hole at $2? Not everybody pays with credit card, obviously.
Right. And I think once the tax office starts accepting credit cards, I think you'll see more people pay. Right now, they have to come downtown to pay their taxes, so they're coming into our office too. But I think if they see an increase in that.
Any idea when that's gonna happen?
I don't know. I had spoken with, the last time I'd spoken with the sheriff, he had said August 1st, but that hasn't happened, so I'll have to check with him again to see when that was gonna be.
But we expect that to happen sometime.
I do expect it to happen in this fiscal year, according to the information I have from the sheriff. So.
I would tend to agree with the motion on the floor. That we go ahead and raise it to $2.50 effective 1 July of 2018.
Just, Carol says we're negative $257, so it's not a huge amount that we're.
Maybe we could absorb that and save ourselves the frustration of going through.
Right. Oh, right. I mean, I think if we did it, it would just be an unwelcome shock when people went in.
Yeah, and
Not necessary.
we don't need to create heartburn. Any further discussion on this? All in favor of approving the proposal, negative. All in favor of approving to raise the ambulance fee credit convenience charge from $2 to $2.50 to cover credit card increases effective 1 July 2018, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's that. Can't do that. Can't do that. What do we have, about 10 minutes? Why don't we knock out county administrator reports?
We have completed our diversity training. That was, the last one was on July 25th. We had 150 employees attend in person. The trainer has sent me a webinar, so I'm following up with employees who haven't attended. They will have to watch that webinar, and we'll have a record of everyone who had web training or attended in person. And I look to make that an annual training that we will have. It was free, provided by our insurance company, so they offer several. I'd like to make it an annual event. It doesn't cost us anything. Maybe not in the summer the next time because it's a busy time for many offices. But I think it was a success, and we had, all but maybe 20 employees attend. So.
And could you provide the link to me? I'd like to take the
Sure.
web version of it. I
Sure.
didn't make it in to take it.
Okay, I will.
Yeah.
I will forward it to you. We are receiving payments for our second payment for the bench upgrade in the Judicial Center from the Supreme Court. So the most recent check was $4,834.68. If you recall, they agreed to pay for that upgrade. For their not having paid us family court rent.
I know. I don't think the 4,000 covers it,
Right.
but not even close. We get what we can.
I look for actually that rent to go away in the future because there are other counties who, Mon County has said, you're not paying us enough, you're not paying us near market value, and the Supreme Court's response has been, well, we'll just take that requirement, we'll ask the legislature to take that requirement out. So I look for it to go away. They mention it every year in their budget presentation, the West Virginia Supreme Court does. I did receive, if you recall, there was waiting for an itemized bill from Blue Ridge Fire Department for the repair of. I did receive that itemized bill. I checked the part numbers to see if they were listed. The most expensive actually the engine, because they had the engine replaced in that ambulance. Everything looks to be in order, so we did give them their $30,000 for their first allotment of the fire department allocation. And then Bakerton Fire Department had asked for an additional $5,000 above the $10,000 initial allocation that they usually get. They also provided me a bill for a utility that they, and we released their check as well. And then for the ambulance fee, we have collected thus far this year 8.57%. So we have $69,455 collected this year. And the bills just went out. So, and we're at a 94% collection rate for the first year, 2014, a 90% collection rate for 2015, and 2016 we've collected 86% of the bills. So that's a pretty high collection rate. I have for you today.
Yeah, what,
I know that I believe Miss Storm is in the hallway.
we already, yeah, but at 10:15, I'm trying to fill stuff. Can we go ahead and do county administrator reports? I mean, county commission reports.
Sure.
Yeah.
Want me to start?
May as well.
Okay. I was included on a NACO conference call last Wednesday, and we discussed the Stepping Up program that NACO has been working on. And the Stepping Up program is a program that addresses that is working to try to keep mental health issues out of jail, people with mental health issues out of jails. That is an ongoing program that NACO is sponsoring, and you can get more information online through NACO. We also discussed which is old news by now, the healthcare bill and the Congress have taken on that. So, but that's old news today. So, but that's it. There are several webinars coming up with regard to the one that there is a webinar coming up with regard to NACO and the Stepping Up program, and it's going to be August the 10th. You can get the information and the from the NACO website. So, and the County Commission did pass a resolution a couple of years ago in support of that program. So I think that maybe 2 years ago that we did that. So that's all I have to report.
Mine's fairly brief also. I attended a Parks and Rec meeting there. The work on the new dog park has started. I think they're putting the fence up as we speak. I also attended a Solid Waste Authority meeting, and I know I mentioned the cash for trash thing. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. So, but other than that, that's pretty brief this week.
For some reason, this was a 2-week period without any meetings of boards or commissions or whatever that I liaise with, but in my continuing efforts to relook the way we're charging the ambulance fee for commercial enterprises, I had a meeting with Jeff Polchinski and Todd from GIS on being able to categorize the kinds of activities that we assess a fee. There's a disparity here. The casino gets charged $85 per annum. Collins Barbershop down the street gets charged $85 per annum. Then when the last time Collins Barbershop called for an ambulance, the casino's one of the high flyers in terms of calling for ambulances. And there's just something wrong with that, and I'm trying to come up with a way of making it more equitable. I also met with Denise and Ed and 2 of their staff, also dealing with the same thing, and the problem that I'm dealing with right now is that the 911 and the ESA are operationally oriented, and they categorize things differently than the way the assessor does, and the assessor's data is what the collection people come up with for the billing. And it's two completely different systems. So my next stop is going to be to briefly confer with Michelle, and then I'm going to have to visit Angie and get a handle on how she categorizes stuff. Hopefully by the time this fall comes, I will have come up with some sort of proposal to present to the commission or to looking at the ambulance fee. And that's what I've been up to the past 2 weeks.
Since the last meeting, I've just been emailing with constituents, trying to get them answers on things, approval of bills.
On July 28th, I went to a Homeland Security Partnership meeting, met the rep for First Energy, and he presented a interesting short video on safety measures, especially during this storm season, and all the good things that you should and should not be doing around down power lines and things like that. August 1st, I went to the Joint Chiefs meeting. That's ambulance and fire chiefs as they work out the issues that arise on a daily basis with their operations. And then also I went to the required Title IX training for the 4-H volunteers. I've been a volunteer for 42 years, and this is a new requirement that everyone has to go through, and it's just, I guess, a sign, unfortunately, a sign of the changing times. Want to let everyone know I will not be able to attend our next meeting, so I'm asking for professional courtesy should something divisive come up. I will be at the State Fair, so it's going to be hard to arrange a conference call in the barn. And I don't know if I really will find a quiet place to do a conference call for an extended length of time. So I requesting professional courtesy on something that's contentious to hold that off at all possible. And I've talked to staff. I was disappointed that there was no donation on the ambulance fee invoice to our citizens. But I understand what the problems are, and hopefully we can get those issues worked out for next year.
And we're right about on time for item number, item number 3, Mr. Reisenweber.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's always nice to come before you all and talk a little economic development. We've had a good run of it as of late, and you all are certainly aware of the first issue, as you've had opportunity to look at this document and discuss this with me in executive session on a couple of occasions now. The nuts and bolts of it have not changed from the discussions that we had. And my understanding is that you've had an opportunity to look at the payment or the payment in lieu of tax agreement for Project Shuttle. I'm still calling it Project Shuttle. I guess I can call it Rockwool now that it's been let to the press. We're very excited about the project. Things are moving along very, very well. And this is one step in the process to continue the ball moving. So I'm happy to answer any questions that I can about the document. It's been through numerous legal iterations. Mike Carl at Bowles Rice, who's drafted more than one payment in lieu of tax agreement over the years, drafted this for us. Widely regarded as one of the best tax attorneys in the state of West Virginia, so we have a lot of confidence in the work that Mike did for us. It's been reviewed by everybody's attorney that's involved, so it's been through Ranson's looked at it, Tim Stranko's looked at it, Nathan, of course, has looked at it. I sent it over to Stephanie as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions that I can. I'd like to point out the good part of it. If you get to the second exhibit, there's a chart there that illustrates the actual payment, so you all can get a feel for how that plays out over the course of the agreement and the revenue that the county will generate.
I'm sorry,
I haven't
Mr.
seen it either.
Reisenweber, I haven't seen this.
It wasn't in our
told me not to put it in the packet.
Oh.
You had asked me not to put it in the packet. You called me and said, don't include the agreement.
Oh, I didn't mean at the exclusion of the commissioners.
Okay.
My fault. That's not real helpful, is it? Sorry about that, folks.
Is it a work product? Is that, I mean, is it public, is it a public
If you
document?
approve it today, it will be a public document.
All right, got it.
I can.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think we need to.
Is that
yeah.
okay?
Yeah, we
I
need
mean,
to
that's
look at it.
the nuts and
I wanna
bolts
see
of
it.
it.
Yeah.
I can explain. I'm
Okay.
sorry about that, Stephanie.
That's
I
all
apologize.
right.
I didn't intend for that not to be distributed to the commissioners. We talked about this a couple of times. The way the payment in lieu of tax agreement works is the Development Authority, in this case, will take title to the real estate, both personal property as well as real estate, and that allows for the payment in lieu of tax to be put into place. It's a 10-year agreement. You can see there that the first year during construction, there's a payment there that the company's agreed to make, and then the abatement will go into effect. As you all recall, on the personal property side, when competing against Virginia that does not charge this tax, we sometimes have to be a little more aggressive to compete, level the playing field with the states that we normally compete against. So the equipment will be salvage valued at the end of it. That's 5% of book value. And that will require, actually the entire project will require a special appraisal by the State Development Office. They have industrial appraisers that can do this kind of work. Obviously, our county assessors can't afford to keep someone on staff for these rare appraisals. So the state will help us with that, and we'll have a better feel for what that dollar figure will be going forward. But you can see in that chart what they've agreed to pay over the period of the agreement, and if you get towards the bottom, you get a feel for what that number ultimately is going to be. I think by the time it's all said and done, they'll be paying a substantial amount in taxes to the county, so we're pretty pleased about that, and hopefully this will allow Michelle and you all to plan accordingly for the revenue that will be coming in from the project as it moves forward.
I'm not clear on the personal property. What I'm reading, it looks like it will never be taxed at its full value, only 5%?
It'll be salvage value. Of course, it'll be, it's going to be depreciated over that time too. But yeah, that'll be 5% of book value. So it's what they have it on their, carry it on their books for, and it'll be 5% going forward once the pilot agreement is completed.
So they'll never pay full value on their personal property?
They'll pay salvage value. That's correct. Now, that doesn't include, if they have additional equipment that gets brought online, that's different. This is just the upfront machinery equipment.
Okay, all right. That's what I was very concerned about.
In other words, if assuming that they're here, say, 15 years from now or whatever, and they acquire a new piece of equipment for whatever reason, that's not covered under this.
Right.
They pay the full freight on personal property tax for
It's
that.
only on their initial equipment.
Right.
This was a competitive.
Oh, I understand
Yeah,
that.
competitive
I know
issue, because
that, but I'm
Virginia,
just
it's an unfortunate, they tax differently, and to level the playing field, we have to do it. No one likes to have to do these things, but to compete, we have to be aggressive about it. I think this one is actually, I was actually pretty pleased with what they were willing to agree to. You can see a fairly large dollar figure there towards the end of that as it phases fully. Keep in mind, it's a $150 million capital investment. We expect about that to be split half and half. So the real estate side will be about $75 million, the personal property, the equipment, the machinery. You had a chance to see it. There's a lot of incredible equipment in there.
I know, that's why I didn't want to
And I sympathize with all of you all, and we don't do this very often,
Right.
but sometimes we have to make an exception on this one. But even 5%, keep in mind, 5% of $75 million that's no small.
change.
That's no small amount.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to factor in depreciation, though, as the years go on, so it's going to slowly decrease
it will.
at 5%. So it's initially that much, but as depreciation kicks in like year 9, I mean, it's not going to be near year 1.
No, it won't.
So-
It won't.
But anything new coming?
Anything
have to
new,
upgrade.
they're already talking about possible expansion. I mean, I think that's part of the reason why they chose the site. So they anticipate, if their sales go according to what they think, according to how they've been doing, 5 years from now, that the facility as it's going to be constructed will be at capacity. So now that's not to say that Deloitte won't come back and ask for another
Right.
pilot agreement on any new stuff, but as of right now, this is just on what's being done today.
Well, and also they're only using maybe half of the site right
third of it.
now. A third,
of
okay,
it.
even less. So
Yeah.
there is the potential for growth.
Absolutely.
And lots of jobs.
And I'd like to, if I can comment on that, frankly, that is what I'm actually most excited about. I know a lot of times we get caught up in the number of jobs. That's great, don't get me wrong, that's part of what we're trying to do here. But what I'm really excited about is there's probably going to be close to $15 million worth of infrastructure driven to this site. When you figure in the road that's going to need to be put in, that'll go all the way to the northern end of the property line, so that will not only open up the east side of the property for additional development, it'll also open, and that's in Ranson at the
Right.
orchard site. Once you get to the northern end of the property line, that's all county land. So there's hundreds of acres to the north and to the east, to the northeast, kind of envelopes the orchard site that's in the county. So you're talking a water line, a sewer line, a gas line, and some road improvements, both on the site as well as turn lanes on the old Route 9. So there's going to be a lot of infrastructure driven to the site that I think is going to set the county up well moving forward. That's what I'm really excited about, in addition to the jobs, of course.
And so why did this company decide to locate in West Virginia?
I think there are a lot of reasons.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, there are a lot of reasons. I think we were able to make the case that we've got a qualified workforce. That's a critical piece. I'm not going to tell you that the incentives didn't help. I think at the end of the day, it's the site. They needed a site. They wanted a site that was quote, off the beaten path a little bit, similar to what we saw down in Mississippi. So I think, I think location, location, location. It's proximity to that DC market.
East
There's
Coast, yeah.
East Coast, there's a lot of construction going on. They're in the construction space, and I think they look at this as a good, a cost, like in my elevator speech, a cost-effective alternative to the high prices of the DC market. We really do kind of fit in that space very well, and I think we were able to effectively make that case. So, you know, I think there's a lot of things to be pleased about with this project. I think it shows that Jefferson County's a good place to do business. They, you know, with a team of consultants like Deloitte, they wouldn't have recommended this place or picked it out if it didn't fit all of their needs. So I think the fact we were able to meet their needs
And compete on a national level.
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it really shines a bright light on Jefferson County, and I couldn't be more pleased about it. So.
A potential plus on this is that people are hesitant to jump into the pool, even though there's a sign saying, come on in, the water's fine. But once it happens, then it opens up the possibility of other companies thinking, and I know you've got a couple that you're looking at, and hopefully this provides an added spur to further type stuff.
Absolutely, Peter. In fact, the day after the announcement, we got 3 inquiries in the office over the phone, which is atypical for all of them to come in one day, and clearly it was due to the press that we got on the project. One was from a larger scale project represented by consultants out of the Tysons Corner area. So I think success breeds success. Yeah. I think you're exactly right, Peter. I think the other thing, what's great about it, back to the infrastructure, this site's going to be already teed up. We won't have to go through all these machinations again the next time we have a user that needs a space similar to what Rockwool's using. So that's really exciting, is we won't have to do all this again. The infrastructure will already be there. So.
To that point, can you explain exactly how that infrastructure is getting there and who's paying for the infrastructure?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Josh. I know, or Commissioner Compton, I know you're obviously concerned about infrastructure issues, particularly sewer. How this is going to work, obviously you all know the property's in Ranson. So Ranson has put an RFQ out for an engineer. So Ranson will be administering the funding. The funding is coming from the State Development Office. The State Development Office has a carve-out for infrastructure projects. We call it the closing fund. So this money will come out of that closing fund. This is not, this will not be put on the backs of the ratepayers. This is money that's coming out of the Infrastructure Jobs and Development Council, of which I sit on as the regional representative. 20% of that money that's appropriated by the state legislature is used for projects like this for the state office. They use it around the state. So we're going to.
So it's 100% funded by the state? Okay.
It'll be funded by their usage. So we're basically taking a lien on the water use. We're taking a lien on the sewer use. There's an alternate mainline extension agreement put in place on the sewer. I know you'll be pleased to see that. So everybody that's onto that line will pay in to help to retire that debt sooner, and the state will get their money back, and then they can put it into another project somewhere else in the state. So their water use and their sewer use will basically bankroll the costs, and the state's upfronting the money. So there's, I want to, if the press is in the room, the ratepayers will not be paying for these infrastructure improvements.
So this has no direct correlation whatsoever to this contentious sewer issue?
Well, Josh, I'm certainly happy to discuss that with you. There could be, I'm not an engineer, but there could be some synergy between the PSD project and how we get sewer to this site. I don't know if the timing's going to line up. So that was a concern for the state. It was a concern for Rockwool. So basically, Ranson is going to design this line, the route of this line. Their engineer's going to design the route. And from some conversations I've had with PSD engineers, there could be a point where pieces of that project could help with getting the line to the Orchard site. But at the end of the day, that's an engineering question. You know, we don't have the luxury necessarily with all the issues swirling with the PSD to slow down Rockwool in order to address that. So they're going to have to continue to be bifurcated, although down the road, there certainly are elements, from what I understand, of the PSD project that could be helpful to the Roxville project. So at the end of the day, the engineers, Josh, I don't want to get out of my comfort zone on the engineering piece. So
Are the
that's
two
about as
mutually
much.
exclusive, though? Is the rock salt dependent on that PSD line that's?
No. That's what I want to be clear about, and that's the reason why it's being done this way, is we've got to make sure that Roxville gets what it needs independent of the PSD issue that we're all grappling with right now. So that's the reason it was funded this way. That's a chunk of money that's being taken out of that fund at the IJDC. It will go directly to run a sewer line there. There are some good things that are happening about it. It looks like the route might actually help out the school system. Looks like we may be able to tap in with a gravity line to the new campus that's going to be the piece of ground that they bought. So this will hopefully help the school system tremendously on getting service to that site for particularly sewer and possibly water as well. So there's some other good ancillary benefits that will come from driving this infrastructure, which, like I said, is really what I've spent a lot of my time working on the last few years, and what I'm really excited about is I think this is really going to help us. This will help the sewer discussion tremendously, I think. So.
One very quick last.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so essentially the taxpayers of West Virginia are going to front this money.
They're going to front it, but keep in
Okay.
mind the bill that the company is going to pay will pay it back. So they are fronting it. It's a loan, and their usage will pay for that over time. In fact, the water will probably get paid off fairly quickly because of the amount of water they're using. That'll pay back fairly quickly.
Who will provide water out there?
Well, Ranson's going to administer the contract. JUI is the water utility, so they'll be running the line out there. Yeah. So.
Yeah, is it a big amount of water that they're going to be?
Yeah, it's a fair amount. Once they get to their second phase, it's a large amount of water. Lee Snyder has plenty of capacity, so he's fine. He's not batting an eye over the amount of water that he'll need to provide.
I was just curious.
It's a big number.
And I don't know if this plant is going to be designed as the same one I saw, but
Be very similar.
They have their own water silo for backup fire suppression on site, so.
They're doing a similar thing
Yeah.
on this site,
Yeah.
so.
Very
In addition
wise.
to which, the sewage is minimal because most of that turns into steam and
So the sewer will take a little longer to pay back because the volume isn't as high. The good thing about the sewer piece is it is a full alternate mainline extension agreement. So anyone that hooks on anywhere on that line, that money will go to expedite the payment back to the state for the line that goes in. So that'll be very helpful.
So does the Public Service Commission have to get involved in that, since that's such a line that is running?
That's a good question. I'm not sure what Ranson's situation is as far as PSC approval and the number of customers they have. I'm not sure how that's a good question.
I don't know
I'll
either.
check on that.
Okay.
It wouldn't shock me that they would have to sign off on it. I can't imagine for 1 minute that they wouldn't because of the impact it's going to have. But I'll chase that down. I don't want to speak out of turn and say something
and
not
I don't
accurate.
want you to.
Yeah,
That was just.
it's a good
just
question. I'll
questions
check
that pop up.
that
That is
out.
a good question, actually, because if someone was against the project, they could file a motion, a complaint or something potentially, and this could get, I mean, they're regulating utilities. I mean, JUI is a utility, I mean, sewer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you'd have to see the Public Service Commission at least offer something.
They would typically be the arbitrator of something like that. So
A landowner next there, completely opposed to it, I mean, he has the right to petition the PSC, and I mean, this thing could get blown out.
well, I sincerely hope that's not the case. That would be, missing the forest for the trees. But let me do a little recon on that. It's a good question, Patsy. I know I don't think Charlestown for things like this has to go through PSC
they have
approval
enough
because of their
customers,
customer
right.
base. I'm not sure where Ranson is on that. I thought they had enough, but I'll ask. Let me
Jefferson
ask.
Utilities, though, is under PSC regulatory,
Yeah, I know.
so.
Let me ask a question, Patsy. It's a good question. I'll get back to you on that.
Mr. Reisenweber, do you have a copy of the proposed lease? Isn't there a lease that goes along with this payment in lieu of taxes agreement?
There will be. We haven't drafted that yet. Once all that gets, keep in mind, that won't that won't occur until the building's completed and the.
I understand.
Yeah, so
But-
your answer to that is no, we don't yet, but we will.
Is there a time frame on the lease contemplating at this point, like a lease for a certain?
The lease would line up, the lease would line up with the length of the pilot agreement at a minimum. Yeah.
And what, in your mind, what would that length be?
Well, the pilot agreement's 10 years. Keep in mind, it's what's characterized as a synthetic lease. It's just basically on paper. It's a legislative workaround to allow, tax abatement's not allowed under West Virginia State Code. So this is the provision that was put in place by the legislature years ago to allow for this, so that we could compete better for these kinds of projects. So typically, it's all the way it's been characterized to me by our legal team is all the benefits and burdens stay with the lessee. It's really a synthetic lease on paper for the purposes of establishing ownership with an entity that's non-taxable.
So, 'cause we had a discussion before that they would never pay taxes, but if.
No, that's not.
Well, that they would never pay taxes on the personal property, that it would always be 5%. They would never pay the.
They'll
but-
pay the salvage value.
Right, but that's only for 10 years?
No, the
It's
salvage,
not-
after the expiration of the pilot agreement,
Uh-huh.
it'll be taxed at salvage value going forward.
For the original.
For the original, yeah.
Person.
What they're
Anything
carrying on their
added
book.
out of, after the
Anything
first?
they add after that
Yeah.
pilot thing, they pay full
Right.
freight for personal property.
Unless
they come back and
unless they come
request.
back and you all were
Make
to
a request.
incentivize it again. I look at that as a good problem to have, frankly, if they're expanding and wanting to do more.
That's what legislature and governor could get together and realize their tax law in the state's a mess.
You know, it's interesting you say that, Josh. I'll give a little aside. When I was talking with Mike Carl was down at the legislature actually advocating for some substantive tax changes. In fact, when I asked him to do this, he says, you know, hopefully if we could get some tax reform at the
Right.
state legislature, you wouldn't need to do this, and you wouldn't need to do these, or at least not to the extent that you have to. But I would, you know, as county commissioners, you all would want to be real careful about how that's get crafted, because keep in mind, you know, personal property is a big source of your all's revenue. So if they do away with it or change it in any way, you all would need, you got to be very careful about how that
Oh,
impacts.
and that's how they do that in other states. I mean, they offset it with other.
The thing is, that somehow,
taxes,
in
yeah.
this state,
Balancing act.
we got
It is.
capital goods linked with personal property, which is,
Yeah, I've already paid, I don't like
Right, but I
paying
mean-
taxes on my car after I've already bought it and paid taxes. It does seem, I don't like it any more than anybody else does.
yeah, but I mean, it's.
It is a little
it's-
antiquated.
We have
It's
to
a
be
stretch to
competitive.
sit there and say that big, huge amounts of machinery are somehow personal property, but that's, anyway,
We have to
be it as
figure
it
out how
may,
to-
that's the law.
And we have to figure out how to be competitive with other states so that we don't get left holding the bag.
That's
and-
right.
And left out of these good opportunities that we've missed in the past for that reason.
I do want to just mention, you look at that chart, and I think you see a company that wants to pay their share. They're obviously going to ask for incentives, but, you know, there's some large dollar figures at the end of that. And they also, you know, we talked with them about paying during construction, and they were willing to, you can see there early on, there's, I think, $225,000 that'll come into the county during construction. Yeah, so that'll be a nice little chunk of change to help on the revenue side early on in the agreement.
But we can't get used to it because it's only going to be a one-time within a
Bump
certain
up,
period.
right.
Yeah, and then there'll be,
Hire staff
then it'll go away, but,
Yeah.
and then it'll come back
Right.
full bore later in
I
the
mean,
agreement.
Nathan, so are we going
Put
to
this back.
try to approve this and subsequently approve another part of this whole transaction, like the leases, or how is this working?
The lease would be, you all wouldn't need to approve
No?
the lease. No, the lease would be between the JCDA and Rockwool.
My only small concern here is going back to the assessment of the property after this agreement expires. I guess I have a question about the assessor's ability to not assess the property at the value of the property. Now, I do understand that, because of the depreciation, the value of the personal property will go down. But I just have that question in my mind.
Well, keep in mind, if you notice, the assessor is a party to this agreement, as is the school board, as is City of Ranson. Anyone has, quote, taxing authority, if you will. So I've talked with our assessor. She's on board with this. She's been very supportive of these kinds of things whenever we've come to her about these. So she will be a signer to this, as will the school board. I've talked to the school board, and they've been very supportive as well.
I guess my question is a legal question. She has an obligation to set property at its true and actual value. When it's part of the pilot agreement and you own it, that doesn't matter. But once it's no longer owned by a government entity, her charge is to set property at its true and actual value. And so that's my question is, do we need to extend the pilot agreement out? Because I assume that she's spoken with, and maybe we need to speak with the tax department, but that's my question is, once the pilot agreement expires, what authority does the assessor have to not set property at its true and actual value?
That's a good legal question, Stephanie. My assumption is that this document would provide that. Now, if we need to go back, maybe it is the kind of thing where 10 years from now we come back to the commission and revisit it. But might not hurt to have a conversation with Mike Carl.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to hold up this for something that's going to be an issue 10 years down the road, but it's good forward thinking, and I don't, again, not a lawyer, I don't want to get out of my comfort zone, but we could ask Mike Carl that. My assumption all along was,
Right,
wrong, or indifferent, but that this document would kind of guide that, and you're all's agreeing to it, would prevent you from having to come back 10 years from now and say, hey, how do we go about doing this? Well, the document kind of guides what was agreed to at the time, so.
I don't want to harp on this, but the Public Service Commission issue is kind of like bugging me because JUI is regulated by them, and the Public Service Commission is granted, they're supposed to look out for the ratepayers, and JUI has a substantial number of ratepayers. Wouldn't they have to approve some sort of extension that big for a JUI type utility?
Yeah, I'll
oversight.
I'll have to check on that, Josh. I will. I don't don't want to speak out of turn, but because this is, I don't know if it's treated differently because it's not coming out of the rate pay. He's not going and asking for, where I would see the PSC coming in is if we went to Lee and said, look, we need you to run a water line here. Tell us how much it's going to cost, and let's figure out how to do it. And then he would have to go in front of the PSC and ask for a rate increase. Well, that's not the situation here. So I don't know what the trigger is for PSC oversight. I don't know if it's when you ask for a rate increase or if you're going before, for some sort of funding mechanism.
I'd like clarification because he, as a water utility, is regulated by them.
Sure. I will chase that down and find out what the role of the PSC is.
Wouldn't this be some like equivalent alternate line extension agreement?
Yes.
That's typically a utility.
Yeah, the PSC typically would sign off on an alternate mainline extension agreement. So that may be where, that may be where, but let me confirm that. I mean, typically they would sign off on one of those.
I don't anticipate that would be.
Oh, no, I think there'd be probably hell to pay at the PSC if they didn't approve it. I mean, we've put a lot of balls in motion. I think, I'm not saying they wouldn't look at it from a regulatory perspective, but I just don't know the answer as to when that kicks in. Typically, they would, I think, have to sign off on an alternate mainline extension agreement.
I think I've looked at a recent order from the Public Service where, a utility was sanctioned because they didn't tell the PA where they were putting some lines. Okay. And so I would think that at some point the Public Service Commission would have to at least say, yeah, okay, we see this, we understand, but I don't know. So that's why
I can
just
go
have a
back and look at that. We've got an MOU, we've got MOUs with the city of Ranson on the utilities. I can go back and look. I don't recall PSC being a signer to the MOU. However, they typically would be signer to an alternate mainline extension agreement to avoid the very situation that you brought up. Yeah.
Don't want that.
No,
I mean,
we
wanna
don't want
make sure
that.
everything's
Yeah.
cross your Ts and dot
Yeah,
your Is. type thing,
absolutely.
so.
we don't want them to come back later and say, well, why didn't we know about this?
Right.
Right.
That's a good question. Let me chase that down, and I'll get you all an answer to all that.
Not to prolong this discussion, but as long as we're talking about utilities, there's the aspect of Mountaineer Gas, which is also regulated by the PSC. And we know the hullabaloo that's going on up in Morgan County. As the saying has it, stuff flows downstream, Potomac flowing downstream. So, and I know that Eric Lewis did a bang-up job in front of the Shepherdstown City Council in talking about that, but that's another potential thing out there in the strategy that needs to be nailed down.
It does, and that's part of the reason why we wrote that op-ed. It's part of the reason why we're, doing everything we can to get our side of the story out. The more I spend on Facebook and the more, I try not to do it, but sometimes I get sucked in. I'm shocked at the disinformation that's being passed around. I mean, this project's being compared to the Keystone Pipeline, and it's nowhere near. It's a distribution line. It's 8 to 10 inches. It's not something a toddler can walk through standing up without bumping his head. I mean, this is a radically different. And the other fundamental difference is, those Keystone Pipeline type projects, they're typically pass-throughs to get to a port or get to some refining facility. They are not lines that folks can tap into. That is not what we're doing. I have no interest in disrupting everyone's property and just for a pass-through. We want the gas. We need to use the gas. It's not something that we want to just be a vector for running it through.
Same thing as the
It's not the
thing.
same thing. And that's what we've really tried to combat in the press and because some of the naysayers are, they're a little loose with the facts sometimes. I understand their opposition to fracking and to fossil fuel use, but at the end of the day, this is a more environmentally sound alternative to coal, and it's being demanded by certain sectors of the economy. And I think it has a lot to do with the reshoring of manufacturing that we're seeing all over the country. Being able to have a much more affordable source of energy to operate your plant is a game changer. That coupled with workforce concerns that companies are having overseas. So.
It seems our staff over there still is looking at some concerns.
Trying to look over this, or?
Should we take a recess until they can tell us what's happening, or?
Well, where is this leading in the immediate, by that, in the next couple of minutes? Obviously, you want a motion approved.
We need to get it
approve
approved
the,
and move forward to get the others
thing.
to sign it, as well as the other MOUs. This is one of the first dominoes that has to fall. Ranson actually took this up at their most recent council meeting, so they've actually already passed it. And I just want to stress to you all, there have been so many lawyers looking at this thing, my head's spinning. So it's had a lot of legal review. I'm happy to get any clarifications from Mike Carl, certainly your questions about the PSC, what happens in 10 years on the salvage side. Those are all good questions.
That is my only concern, is that I don't want to obligate the assessor to something she can't legally do. When I read the agreement, it doesn't really say, I mean, for the term of the agreement, it's at salvage value. Right, I don't, yeah.
We don't want to put ourselves in a position of following the guidance of one prominent legislator who said, well, we got to pass the thing so you can see what's in it.
This isn't Obamacare, Peter. Not quite on that scale, but
It'll turn out a lot better.
I understand your sentiment. I didn't expect that to get brought up this morning.
See, we can go go down all kinds of
I
different
expected the
rabbit
sewer
paths.
question, but I
Yeah.
didn't expect that one.
You knew that was coming.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. I wasn't surprised at that. I think we can approve it and get,
Go ahead and
my
approve
hope would
it
be we can
and-
approve it, and then we can
So
get
what-
some clarity to what happens when this, as
Address-
it
I mean,
relates
it's
to.
really an issue for the assessor. I mean, she can't sign it if she can't do it. So that's really her obligation under the agreement is how the property is going to be assessed. That's not your obligation, is to say you're okay with that. So the assessor is the one who has to worry about how the property
And I'll,
is going to be.
and
I'll
it's-
get with Angie and
that
we'll
worked
get
out.
Mike Carl involved and see what the, what
And-
needs to be done.
And it's,
If
I mean,
anything.
obviously, the assessor can't agree to anything that is,
Right.
isn't supported by law. So if, for some reason, that would be determined to be an issue, then the agreement would just have to be modified.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think we have plenty of time to hash that out, and we won't wait the 10 years, of course.
Right.
She'll need an answer
No.
before she
Right.
signs
Yeah.
it. So
Well,
I'll
she-
I'll
I
get
mean-
Mike involved. I'll get him on the phone as soon as we get out of here.
It's a
Even
good-
if she's
good-
elected to another term, she probably, I mean.
That's a good catch, though.
It is a good
Because
catch.
it's important.
I gotta admit, that, I wasn't thinking
And
past.
understand, it's not in
Yeah.
opposition to that
No, I understand.
arrangement. It's whether or not she
She's
has
allowed
the-
to do it.
allowed
That's a
to
good
do it.
question. I wasn't thinking that way.
Because her charge is to assess property at its true and actual value.
Yeah.
So, and typically, if that doesn't happen, the state tax department comes in and says, you're not assessing.
The good
why
thing
are
about
you
this,
doing
Stephanie, is, this issue is statewide,
Right.
particularly
Right.
so these agreements typically have a provision of this nature, so I can't
Okay.
imagine we're reinventing the wheel.
Okay.
Ought to be pretty easy to ascertain
Okay.
what happens at that point.
Right, it's really her obligation, it's not, you don't assess value, so
Right.
it's really the assessor's.
Well, and I'm asking her to help us out, so I
Right.
want to help her make
Right.
sure that she's comfortable. So that's a good catch, and something I got to admit, I wasn't thinking, I just was under the assumption that she would be allowed to do it.
I mean, maybe it's possible that she is, but I'd like to clarify that for her
Good catch.
before she assigns.
We'll do that.
Okay, what I'm going to do is put a motion on the floor. Thus, I move to approve the pilot agreement for Project Shuttle as presented by the Director of the County Development Authority.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Nathan, if we approve this, and don't we need some sort of clarification with the assessor? That's my issue here.
Well, it's just that I don't think that we have any concern about the issue during the term of the agreement. And so therefore, I think that our Economic Development Authority chair here is going to, I think he's representing to us that he's going to ascertain that. And we're approving the agreement for the term of the agreement. Should it need to be adjusted based on the extant state law, then that adjustment will have to be made.
My assumption is that Mike Carl he's written these before, so, but Josh, to answer your question, I will chase that down. And if we got to bring it back because it needs to be modified, then we'll do that.
Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the pilot agreement for Project Shuttle as presented by the Director of the Jefferson County Development Authority indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Next.
Thank you. The second agenda item that I have is you all are aware of the agreement that we have with the West Virginia Small Business Development Center for the business coach position. Matt Coffey's here with me today, and he's available to answer any questions as well. I'll just brief background. We were approached by Christina Oliver a couple of years ago about getting a business coach established in the Eastern Panhandle through a contract vehicle. And the state was willing to pay basically 2/3 of the cost of the position. And the Development Authority was asked to cover the other third. So we put that in our budget. You all approved that budget a couple of years ago, and that's how we've been operating going forward. Because the business coach position is part of a statewide network, they don't necessarily just work within the confines of a specific county. for example, Matt has a banking background. It's not odd for Matt to get pulled into helping a community or a business coach in another part of the state on a banking question. So that is, I just want to make sure you all understand, it is a network, and while he's housed in the Jefferson County Development Authority office, he does sometimes work outside of the Jefferson County. So, but he is the Eastern Panhandle business coach. So in light of that, I approached the Berkeley County Development Authority to assist in the cost share. So the Berkeley County Development Authority splits our cost share with us evenly. So that, to me, I think was a fairer way of financing the position. The state liked the idea because it pulled Berkeley County's commitment into the scenario, and I think it helps from a regional perspective to better serve particularly the small business community. So that's where we are now. It's moving along fine. I got a call from Josh Jarrell, who is general counsel for the development office, a few weeks ago, and apparently he's gotten word from the United States Small Business Administration that they have concerns about how these contract vehicles are structured, in that they don't have benefits. So right now, Matt is a 1099 employee. And Matt, if I'm talking about your personal finances in a way that you're uncomfortable with, just smack me or something, I'll stop. But I'm not going to get into all the details of that. But in general, he's had to get his health insurance through another mechanism, which is quite expensive. So in order to address the concerns of not only federal SBA but also West Virginia SBDC, the state contacted us and asked if the county would be willing to take on the business coach as a position within the development authority. Of the, how many coaches we have? 13, Matt? 19? How many? 15 currently. 15 currently. 2 of the coaches, Matt being one of the 2, are affected with this situation. So a lot of the coaches are either affiliated with one of the community technical colleges or university, or they're actually a formal employee of another entity. Matt is one of 2 around the state that is not. So what the State Development Office, who oversees the SBDC, has asked us to do is to bring him on as an employee. The good news is, I'm not asking you for money. You're like shocked at that, I'm sure.
Yeah,
they're actually they're actually willing to cover the costs. So they're still running some numbers on exactly how we would work out his salary, and because obviously benefits are a portion of the salary. The health care is the big piece. I talked with Michelle, our finance director. The cost of that is about $19,200 if Matt were to be on the family plan. That's the total cost, and then the retirement would be 11% of his salary. So you're looking at a cost of about $25,000. The state office is willing to pay that. Now, his contract right now stipulates that if the funding mechanism that we currently have in place for some reason doesn't hold, for example, let's say you all don't approve my portion of the cost share and I don't have any other way to pay it, or the state comes back and says, look, we just got our budget cut again, we got to cut coaching, or we got to cut staff, or something of that nature. He knows that he's at will, and that if that situation arises, he may be out of a job. That would not change under this situation. So if for some reason, and that would be written into his employment contract, as it is now. So if that situation arose where the state came back to us and said, hey, we got cuts, we can't afford this, we would come back to the drawing board and figure out how we would go about handling this. So the way I look at this is we're getting a full-time business coach for a mere fraction of what it would normally cost. So basically the state's paying, probably in this case, it'd be almost 3/4 of the freight, and we're, with Berkeley County, paying probably the other 25%. Those are ballpark numbers. So, I think it's, frankly, to me, it's kind of a no-brainer. You all would have protections in that contract with him that if for some reason the funding wasn't there, you all wouldn't be then asked, hey, by the way, the state's cutting, county commission, can you pick this up, pay the difference? That is a decision you all would have the authority to make, and if the decision would be, sorry, we can't swing it, then then, obviously the business coach position would go away. I asked the question, I said, well, why don't you all just hire him in the Small Business Development Center? They don't have an opening, and they don't have an open position that they could slide him into. They looked into that. They obviously would have to get the legislature to allow them to create another position. So they don't have that right now, and that's the reason they can't do it. So the request before you is to bring the business coach on as a full-time county employee with the provision that the county will pay the additional costs above what they're already paying. So your commitment would be...
Small
That-
business.
That the West Virginia Small Business Development Center will pay the additional cost.
Through the, I use the development office because they're a agency of the development office. So it's out of the Commerce Department.
Yeah, what you said was county.
Yeah.
So would that work like a pass-through?
What they do is Matt submits an invoice, and then we submit it to SBDC, and they reimburse us. So we front it.
We don't even,
Yeah, now how
It's
the...
going to go on our insurance.
Yeah, you go on your insurance,
The
so
development authority
the
pays our-
funding mechanics may need to be different, Patsy, to address what you're concerned about in that, is it a lump sum up front, or do we continue to handle it the way we're doing it now? Right now,
Okay.
it's pretty easy because it's just
Right.
his invoice for the salary piece. But Michelle, what we would do is pull Michelle in and figure out how the mechanics would go. And the state's being very flexible about it. They want to keep Matt. He's done a great job. We're pleased to have somebody that can actually focus on small business, to be able to, work up and down Main Street. We think that's a very, very important part of the economy here. And I'm very pleased that we've been able to have Matt. Like I said, he's doing a good job, brings a lot of banking experience, which is critical when you're trying to get projects funded and capitalized so that we can get folks opening new businesses. So, but yeah, a good point about the mechanics of it. I think, because this would be new, but we'd pull Michelle in, and frankly, Josh in the state office seems very amenable to doing what's easiest. So we can work those mechanics out.
well, I'll move to approve the JCDA business county employee, provided additional costs are paid by the West Virginia Small Business Development Council.
Second.
A center, okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the JCDA business coach as a county employee, provided additional costs are paid by the WVSBDC, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done.
Thank you all. Just in closing, I just want to sincerely thank all of you for your support of Project Roxel, and of course what we're doing with the business coach. These are big things that are happening. We're very pleased with what's going on. We've got another building going up in the business park. I've got contracts going with another entity that's looking to come in. The Italian company team is in as we speak. They're meeting in my office. I'm headed back to further work out finalizing those things. So I just want to thank all 5 of you all for your support of economic development in the county. It's been tremendous, and I'm not saying that lightly. I mean it sincerely, and I think, raising it on the revenue side is going to help as we move forward. So the more development we can attract, the better off your all's jobs, the easier your all's jobs will be, if easy is ever an adjective you would use to describe your jobs, because I know it's very, very tough. But I just want to sincerely thank you, and I know I speak on behalf of my board. You all have been incredible, and I want you to know on Roxel, this project wouldn't have happened without your all's support. I mean that sincerely. So thank you.
Best wishes on full recovery for
Thank
your
you.
upcoming
Yeah,
surgery.
I'm putting on a good face, but having a herniated disc addressed on Monday, and hopefully we'll be able to walk straight.
Your son had that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he do okay?
great,
Good. That's,
but he listened.
yeah, and
He did great.
my father's drilling that into me, listen to your doctor. So. But thank you all. I appreciate it. Thanks, Peter.
He'll say, no more house calls if
Right,
you
he's already
don't
kicked
listen.
me out. I had to go get my own doctor. Thank you all.
Thanks, John.
Okay, we need to move along. How fast can you speak, Nikki?
Very quick.
Come on up.
I am here to get the approval for the poll workers and alternate for the October 7th special election. Both Republican and Democrat Executive Committee submitted the name, and I'm just here asking for your approval.
Well, I've taken a look at the poll workers and the alternates as you presented them to us, so I would move to approve the poll workers and alternates as presented by Nikki.
I will second that, but want you to look at, I know one poll worker for, let's see, Democrat in, let's see, Country Day School, Mr. Peter Fricka has moved from the county,
Yes.
but I know an alternate
Yes.
will take his place.
And we already had one cancellation before I've even sent out the letters on the
Yeah.
Republican side, so.
We'll be using those
This
alternates.
yes, we will be using these alternates, and we will probably use many more. It is a Saturday election, and it is notorious for cancellations,
Right.
especially last-minute cancellations.
Yeah.
So
We have a
Okay.
good
the
list.
final list will not look anything like this.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's a provision in there.
Yes.
Right.
All in favor of approving the poll workers and alternates as presented indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, we have the 11 PM thing.
Do we want to take a
Do we
5-minute break?
want to take a brief break?
Yeah.
Probably should, yeah. Take a little break
Uh,
before we get started on that.
Let's try our best to be back by 11:15. That gives everybody a chance in terms of they really need to do.